Hi, thank you for joining us. My name is Sheldon Anderson. I'll be your host today for a conversation with Assemblywoman Crystal Peoples-Stokes, our representative for the 141st District. Thank you for joining us today, Assemblywoman. I know that you're back from Albany.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yes. I know that you're back from Albany. How's everything going in Albany so far?
Well, initially things were a little slow. We were having some difficulties in terms of our leadership, but we do have that all worked out now, and we have selected the first African-American man to be the Speaker of the State Assembly. His name is Speaker Heastie. He hails from some people call the Boogie Down Bronx. He's a great leader. I'm looking forward to his leadership. We worked well together in the past, and I'm pretty confident that we'll work well together in the future also.
That's great. And speaking of Speaker Heastie, you were the first person to vote for him outside of New York City.
Yeah. Outside of his immediate county where he's from, the Bronx, I was the first major supporter he had. And we feel really good about that because I think there were some other good candidates that were in vying for this position. I think the thing that really pulled it out for me with Speaker Heastie was his ability to listen. Because I think, sometimes we forget that really good leaders need to be good listeners, because how do you lead your people if you haven't really heard what it is that they need? And so I think that characteristic really shined really bright for him in my point of view, and I'm pleased to be on board with him early.
Right. Now, how do you think that helps you when you have to represent Buffalo and bringing resources back to Buffalo, being that you have a good relationship?
Quite frankly, it's already really helped me. Right. As you know, previous to this session, I chaired the Assembly Conference. And now, since there's a new speaker, I actually chair a standing committee of the state legislature. It is the Government Operations Committee. It's a huge committee, and it's because the speaker decided that I would be the right person for that position, that he appointed me to it, and I'm really grateful for that. It's a committee that deals with a number of issues that are important to me that I've always worked on, one being the minority and women-owned business issue, and the other, of course, being just good government in general and opportunities to access the Freedom of Information law. And we're dealing with a lot of ethics issues in Albany right now. All of those issues come through the Government Operations Committee, all procurement, Office of State Government issues, Homeland Security, cybersecurity is a big issue now in our committee that we're dealing with. And so it's a big committee, and I'm excited about the opportunity to chair it.
Right. And with that responsibility, you're able to raise concerns and bring more resources back to Buffalo, from education, economic development, healthcare. Talk more about some of the education initiatives that you're focusing on and what resources are you trying to bring back to Buffalo?
Well, this year, fortunately, our Assembly budget has put in $1.8 billion.
Wow.
To fund public education in the state of New York. It's the largest sum that we've seen in the state's budget since 2008. Now, clearly, we are just through our portion of the budget. The governor has submitted his budget. Now the Assembly has submitted their budget. The senators will submit their budget as well, and then we'll be in conference committees. And hopefully by the end of the day, when the budget is finally approved at the end of this month, that $1.8 billion will be intact. And school districts across the state of New York, including my own, Buffalo School District, will be better off as a result of additional resources. The other thing you might note is, that the governor, during his State of the State, may put major emphasis on trying to deal with a new evaluation system for teachers, some sort of receivership style initiative to deal with low performing schools. Kind of disconcerting that you would put policy issues in front of appropriations, which is what a budget is supposed to be about. Right. So that is a challenge for us in the state legislature. I don't think that all of the desires that the governor would like to see as it relates to those policy issues will come to the forefront during the budget process, but we do have to discuss them. And so, I've offered up a way that we can maybe deal with some of our low-performing schools in Buffalo is by going to community schools. Right. And we're going to be introducing legislation on that Monday that will provide for an opportunity for community-based organizations, educational leaders to apply for grants to plan for a year on how to implement community schools in those schools that are persistently low achieving.
Right. Now, With education, having the recent selection of Dr. Catherine Collins to the New York State Board of Regents, can you talk more about how that would help implement certain things in education, specifically?
Well, I can tell you that's another huge opportunity that we had as a result of being supportive of Speaker Heastie to be the speaker. 5 years ago, there was a regent vacancy in the Western New York area. As a matter of fact, it was an at-large position. And our delegation, much like we were this time, disagreeing who that regent should be. We disagreed the last time. The former speaker decided, since our delegation could not agree on a candidate, that he would appoint someone, and he appointed Wade Norwood, who happens to be a very well-skilled young man from Albany area. This year, even though there was disagreement in the delegation, the speaker decided to support the candidate that I supported 5 years ago and I supported last week, and that is Dr. Catherine Collins. Dr. Collins is very learned. She has graduate degrees, a doctorate degree in educational administration. She has a master's degree in curriculum development. She is a teacher. She's a registered nurse. She is very skilled, and I think she will add a huge addition to the New York State Board of Regents.
Right. And with Dr. Collins' experience, also being a registered nurse as well, she's also very aware of the health-related issues that come into play with education. A healthy body is a healthy mind. Everyone knows that. I know in one of the community schools initiatives that you're trying to focus on, for schools to apply for some of that funding through the state, they have to, put together a health plan for their students. They have
to have a health plan for the students from pre-K through 8th grade, whatever grades those children are in. There has to be a health plan that's designed around ensuring that they're healthy during the process of their learning. And along with health, actually, you also have to have the opportunity for arts and culture and music. And you also have to have access to physical education, which for some reason was taken out of many schools. So we're looking for a holistic approach to educating children that worked so effectively in the past.
Right. And speaking of culture, I know that you're a strong champion of the Amistad Commission and trying to get that funded. Could you talk more about the Amistad Commission to some of those who may not
The
know?
Amistad Commission is a commission that's actually implemented in a couple other states, New Jersey being the one probably closest to us in New York. And it's essentially a commission that goes worldwide in search of the top historians, academic historians, to figure out the methods of infusing the role of Black people in America. And so that, as opposed to us focusing on Black history in February, it becomes a part of the curriculum, because if you really think about it, Black history is American history. I mean, this country would not have been built without Black people and their involvement in it. And so we're looking to get that funded in this year's budget as well, so that they can put that commission together. And hopefully by next year this time, or certainly within the next 2 years, we will have figured out a way to infuse that curriculum streamlined into the academic history, social studies, et cetera, of all students in New York State.
Right.
I think that would be not only a good way for African Americans to better understand who they are and what their contributions have been, but for the general population to understand that as well. I think a lot of the discourse that we have in race relations is because we really don't know each other.
Right.
Quite frankly, the majority community doesn't know us. We don't know the Asian community. Some of us don't even know ourselves. And so the purpose for education is increasing people's opportunity and experiences. And I think that that's a huge piece of education that has been left out, and it needs to be added. So we're focused on the Amistad Commission, and we do have the support of all of the members of the Black Caucus to do so.
Great, that's great. And I know with education, I know obviously having a nurse in every school has been one of your goals for many times. How's that going so far? How's that initiative
Actually,
going?
to be honest, I'm glad you asked that question, because when I first became a New York State legislator, it was during the time when Erie County was going through the green budget, blue budget, green, when the county executive was presenting more than one budget. But at the end of the day, county funding school nurses was eliminated. And, there was a young lady over at City Honors who had an asthma attack. Her classmates picked her up, rushed her off to the nurse's office, and they got there and the door was closed. Now, thankfully, where City Honors is located, it's very close to Buffalo General Hospital, very close to Roswell. So there was a way to get her the kind of health care she needed quickly, so that it wasn't worse than it could have been. But the fact of the matter is that every kid should be in school with a nurse. Across the state, with the exception of the Big Five school districts, it's in our Constitution that every school has to have a nurse. That was not the case for Buffalo. That was not the case for Rochester. So we were able to write and get passed legislation that provided for that. And, you know, it's a great thing, because at the time that cost $5.3 million. Well, things change, and, you know, 9 years later, you can't be still running a good service on the same dollar.
Right.
And so, you know, it's our effort in this current budget to increase that dollar amount, so that what has ended up being a nurse in every school half-time in one school, half-time at another school, can go back to being a nurse in every school.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's a very exciting opportunity and very, very necessary.
Okay. Now, I just want to shift gears to healthcare. I know that you have been raising awareness about DSRIP. A lot of people don't necessarily know what that's about. It's a heavy acronym, but however, the main focus of DSRIP is to, you know, reduce those Medicaid costs that occur when individuals enter emergency rooms, and focus more on preventative care, and overall increase the awareness in the community for preventative care. And could you talk more about that?
Exactly. It's a federal initiative that is trying to incentivize states to figure ways to reduce the cost of Medicaid of people using the emergency room as a healthcare outlet. Now, it's kind of strange that, you know, you would have hospitals trying to figure that out when, you know, hospitals are pretty much deficit run operations, so they're going to try to hold the resources to themselves. But the fact of the matter is that for DSRIP to really be effective, I think it should work in public schools. It should work at the CAO. It should work at the Urban League. It should work at the community health center, because this is where people come for services that deal with other parts of their life, but they're also the same patient that perhaps is the one who ends up in the emergency room for a flu, when they really should have gone to a doctor. So we've been working with both the district. There are two entities in Western New York that have been allocated to be appointed by the health department to be providers. One is the Catholic Health System, and the other one is the ECMC. So the ECMC has performed, I should say not performed, but they put together a collaborative called the Millennium Corporation.
Right.
And just very recently, they hired their executive director, which I think is, you know, is very good progress. And so our focus now is to make sure that, you know, hospitals don't figure out how to duplicate themselves in the community, but figure out how to use the existing community resources to meet the needs of the people who they would like to meet. And I think it's a workable system. If we don't work this out, then what we will have done is spent multiple millions of dollars again and not gotten to the solution for people's lives. Basically, you know, if you are, say, a resident of public housing and you have diabetes, there are things that you could do in your lifestyle that will prevent you from needing to go to the hospital because you're on the verge of having a stroke. You have to change your diet. But it's a little easier for community-based organizations to help educate people culturally on these sorts of healthcare issues than it is for the executives from the hospitals to come out in the community and do that. So we're forcing a community model for DSRIP, and I think that's going to be where the solution is. Right.
And you spoke about funding. I know that Roswell has proposed funding cuts that were suggested by, I believe it was Governor Cuomo.
Very disappointing.
Yes,
that the governor's budget was proposed with a $15 million cut for Roswell. You know, as you know, Roswell is a huge asset, not just to this immediate community, but I would say all of Western New York and all of New York State in general. And quite frankly, people come from outside of New York State to receive the valuable services that are provided in Roswell as a cancer institute. And so, you know, my colleagues and I really pushed hard, and in the Assembly's portion of the budget, that $15 million is restored without question.
And with that, a lot of times people don't understand the actual impact, like you mentioned. Roswell provides employment opportunities for a lot of people. So if $15 million is off their budget, they may have to cut back on pharmacy technicians or cut back on research and grants and things like that. Could you talk more about how that could potentially impact people who are actually working on the medical campus at Roswell?
It's a very good question that you raise. And if you think about the economy of Buffalo and Western New York, whereas it used to be one that was based on steel mills and auto manufacturing, it's not that now. It's an economy that's built on a model of healthcare.
Absolutely.
It's built on higher ed.
Right.
And it's built on research. And research that will result in some potential for manufacturing. So any losses to any entity in the medical corridor or in the new economy that we've created has a negative impact on job creation, because if people are losing jobs, it's very hard to be creating jobs when folks are losing them. So I think it was a mistake in many ways on the governor's part and his administration's part to suggest that Roswell could operate with $15 million less. If anything, we should be trying to look to opportunities to increase what they do there, because it is our economy and it does provide employment opportunities for a lot of people, including many of those who are able to walk to work.
Right. Now, I wanted to speak to you about the Child Psychiatric Center. It was proposed that they're looking at seeing if it can be either relocated to Buffalo and possibly being closed down. Now, for some who don't know, the CPC is out in West Seneca, and there's also a CPC within the city of Buffalo proper. Could you talk more about how that could potentially impact people living in the city of Buffalo? Because you can potentially have children, being relocated to a facility where there's a large adult population.
That's a little concerning, but the professionals which I am not, but the professionals who administer that sort of psychiatric work, working with that population, they don't think that it's a detriment to have one large building where on 3 floors you're dealing with adults and on 2 floors you are dealing with children. I happen to think so, not even being a professional. I just don't think that's a good mix. But I think in many ways the West Seneca site is apparently appealing to someone, because I think that the reason why they want to make this move is to be able to sell the property. One thing that I have heard from the department, because we've questioned them very aggressively on this move, is that no one will lose their job. And the services will not be provided in West Seneca. They will be provided over on Forest Avenue at the Psychiatric Center over there. As you know, those are beautiful facilities and they're beautiful grounds, but there's still some hesitancy on my part and part of many adults as to how do you deliver that level of service to children and adults on the same grounds. Now, because it is still such a volatile issue, and we're still in conversations with the department about it, we actually are planning to, the chair of the mental health committee, who is Aileen Gunther, who I believe is from maybe Orange County, is going to be coming to Buffalo to hold hearings on that topic. Not sure of the dates yet, but I believe it will be soon after the budget has been passed.
Right, that's great to know. Let's just switch gears to economic development. I know that you've been a strong champion of MWBE related issues. Your office was able to coordinate a disparity study through the state and try to get more information about the procurement and the role that minority and women-owned enterprises have in that. Could you talk more about Article 15A and its potential to sunset, and what's going on with MWBE related issues from the state level?
Well, when I first arrived in the Assembly again, in Section 15A was on the verge of sunsetting, because the legislation is written with a time frame. Right. And I think you write legislation like that on a time frame because you hope that one day you'll get to the point where you don't need to have legislation to have governments fairly offering business opportunities to minority and women-owned businesses. So we were able to get it extended. We were able to get a disparity study done. Well, that disparity study will be outdated at the end of this year, and the legislation will sunset at the end of 16. So the governor has put in his budget his proposed budget that we would extend the time for the disparity study to be due until the end of 16, and that we would extend the sunset for Section 15A to 17. We actually are accepting his idea on extending Section 15A to 2017, but we're rejecting his idea to extend when the disparity needs to be done until 2016. Right. Why? Because I think we need to do a disparity study right now. It's the thing that allows you the ability to say that this is a problem, where there are researchers who go out and find all the details. One, that there are businesses that are owned by minorities and that are owned by women who could do this exact same work that a traditional company has always had access to. And because you can prove that, then the folks who may want to challenge these things in the courts don't necessarily have a leg to stand on. Right. Now, why is it important that government shares its tax dollars when it does business with all of its citizens for a lot of reasons. It creates wealth in communities when people are able to grow, maintain, and stabilize their businesses, much like majority companies have been able to do since the beginning. You know, people always like to say that, you know, government should run like a business. Well, maybe, maybe not. But for sure, the purpose of government is to serve the people. But it cannot serve people without doing business with somebody. Right. Even if it's to buy paper clips. Right. Government has to do business with someone. And since we are all expected to be taxpayers and citizens, we should all have access to be able to do business with them. So the goals previously under Section 15A, which was quite frankly established under the former Governor Cuomo, God rest his soul, who implemented this procedure years ago and funded it totally. There was a person who would provide oversight in every agency under Mario Cuomo's governorship. Well, you know, things changed. We got a new governor, it was Mr. Pataki, pretty much was decimated. Right. And so the efforts to build it back up, I think new Cuomo is doing a really great job with that. He right away did an executive order as soon as he was sworn in to increase those goals to 20%. And quite frankly, they were very easily met. Not only were they met, they were exceeded. Absolutely. It went up to 25%. And so now, in his most recent executive order, he's changed that to 30%. Now, you really need to make sure you have that disparity study in place, because when you start saying 30%, it's got to go to women-owned businesses and or minority-owned businesses. You know, people begin to get a little concerned that they may not be able to continue making the resources that they had been in the past. So I think it's important that we maintain these things. I hope that during the budget process, you know, that the Senate will, well, they don't agree with us right now on what should be rejected and what should be accepted, but we hope that at the end of the day, the disparity study recommendation will be rejected, and we will get started with that right away. And the extension for Section 15A of the executive law will be accepted as it is until we pass a new one. Right.
And with that that disparity study, is there any recommendations to increase the resources for MWB compliance and certification and monitoring? Because obviously with a lofty goal of 30%, you know, the state, I'm sure, is doing everything they can do to meet that goal. My question then is, what could be done to highlight maybe some resources that need to be allocated?
Well, I think the resource part of it is something that needs to be highlighted and added to during the budget process, which we are doing. We're adding additional resources to Empire State Development, specifically for the purpose to hire compliance people, to ensure that, you know, the compliance is actually happening, and people to provide oversight. The additional criteria that's going to be looked at in the new disparity study are issues that I think are equally as important. One is the workforce. You know, how well is the state of New York doing with its workforce in providing opportunities for minorities and for women? And the other one is to look at net worth. I mean, should a company that is a casino owner in Alabama and a minority company not be eligible to be minority certified in New York State because the company is already at, say, $5 million in wealth? I mean, these kind of questions need to be answered through a disparity study as well. I personally think not. You know, I think if it's a minority company, as long as you meet every other requirement of you that's required, I don't think you should be excluded because your company is already successful. Because quite frankly, what are the possibilities that it could be more successful if you're able to get contracts through New York State, if you're able to open a casino in New York State? And generally what you find is that women who own businesses tend to do just like other people who own businesses. They hire the people that they know. Right. And the same with minorities. And so it creates opportunities for additional jobs and wealth in communities that are in desperate need. Right.
And I know you have some community events coming up. I believe one of the flyers I came across was May 2nd. There's going to be a Bridging the Gap Community Forum where we're going to highlight some of the initiatives that the Department of Labor is doing in trying to bridge the gap between the community with workforce training and private employers to kind of, help facilitate that relationship between the community and employers.
Yes,
could you give more information about that?
We've actually done this before. Okay. On several occasions where, because there's some notion, particularly, people who really kind of like to stay stuck on no, 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 or they won't allow me to do. That suggests that, you know, all of the investment that's being made in Buffalo from the state of New York doesn't apply to people who live on the east side. Well, it absolutely does.
Right.
I don't spend half my life going back and forth to Albany to work for everybody else's community. I work for this community. And so everything that's being created is available to folks. The thing is you have to go to where it is to get access to it. And so there are a number of training programs. There are a number of certified certificate programs. There are a number of even academic opportunities that will prepare you for the world of work in a high-tech, knowledge-based economy, which is what we're in. And so we're going to be bringing both the providers of these services and employers to a place where our citizens can speak directly to them. Folks should come prepared to be interviewed. They should dress as if they're already successful,
right,
as if they already have the job. And we will have folks there who will help them move their lives forward in this area of either career development or job seeking.
Right. And like you said, it's a knowledge-based economy. I think that in years past in Buffalo, obviously, like you said, mentioned before, it was an industrial economy. You can walk into a plant and get a job the next day. It's not, you know, that shifted to a point where you have to have some sort of certificate, you need to have some sort of education, some sort of experience to then justify, you know, getting a job. So I think you can talk more about how important it is to actually take advantage of
Exactly.
the
As a matter of fact, we just spent the entire week, our community did, on what's called Science Week.
Right, right.
And all sorts of efforts headed up by Eunice Lewin, who is a New York State SUNY trustee. And it was for all Buffalo public schools. And just an exciting notion to know that, you know, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math are important pieces of the economy that's not only being created here in Buffalo, it's quite frankly, it's the global economy that's being created. And so to think that you have to have a master's degree or a doctor's degree to work in this economy is absolutely the furthest from the truth. There are a number of certificate type training programs that are available both through the EOC, through ECC, and through the facility, the advanced manufacturing facility that's been set up at Burghardt High School to prepare people for the jobs that are not only here in our economy today, but will be in our economy in the future. The issue is that people have to prepare themselves for it.
Absolutely.
As you said, it's not like it used to be, where a high school diploma will get you a good, decent paying job where you can take care of your family. You're gonna need a little more than that now. And if it's not a college degree, it certainly is some sort of certified training that will provide you with an opportunity to be a carpenter, electrician, or whatever it is that you desire to do in your future. But preparation is the key.
Right. And like you said, it's not just jobs for young people, people with high school, college degrees and higher education levels. There's training programs for adults who are trying to re-enter the workforce and want to pick up skills with welding. There's the Buffalo Education for Adults. They can get more information there. So there's a lot of programs that are available.
Actually, at the Harvest House down on Jefferson and Eagle, they provide some really great certified training programs that people can get trained in that would allow them to go out and apply for a job in today's economy.
Yeah, I really appreciate the time, Assemblywoman. I'm sure that if we needed any more information, we can reach out to your office for any flyers, any community-based events coming up. And we look forward to speaking with you in the near future. Thank you for coming.
I look forward to it as well. You know, the number in our office is 897-9714. Folks are always welcome to call.
And where's your office located again?
792 East Delavan, in the heart of Delavan-Grider.
And how long have you been there, just out of curiosity?
I've been there for quite some time, actually. And when I was a county legislator for 9 years, I was at 790 East Delavan Avenue. And upon becoming a New York State Assemblywoman, we moved over one office space, and we're at 792. So it's been really great being there in that community. We do have one problem, though. We seem to be growing out of the space.
That's a good thing.
But that's a good problem to have.
There you go. All right. Thank you, Assemblywoman.
Thank you.
My name is Sheldon Anderson. I was your host today for a conversation with our Assemblywoman Peoples-Stokes. Thank you and have a great day.